So if there are no additional changes, I'll move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. We'll begin public comments. Anyone care to speak? Dean?
Just to mention several things. I know today I was busy. I don't know if you saw in the paper the whole thing about Seagull Water Systems. As far as they found some Dachshunds, and they right now we're giving about 17 different places water until we really figure out what we can do as far as looking for some final testing on Friday. And just to, for those that be interested, we do have a hotline for that. It's 269-686-4546. We also, if you just go to our website, ellencounty.org, and just click on groundwater investigations, you can see what's being done. They're going to try to do a daily briefing as far as what the updates are on that. And it's really a big deal, with it.
Did you say dioxin?
Dioxins. So it's really the paper sludge, from Nashua.
Yep.
And that's what they have found it to be. So if you can think of, many of those sludges were put on our roads for years and years and years from that. But so it's going to be, we have a lot of people looking into it, and there's a lot of worried people in that area. So we're putting a lot of time to try to do it right in what we're doing, helping the people that are there as much as we can. Many of you know that we are also working on indigent defense. Governor Snyder put a mandate out to all the counties that we had to switch what we were doing. And if you aren't familiar with that, we have defense attorneys for those that can't afford it, for the indigent. And currently we felt we were doing well, but I think there's a lot of areas that were slipping in that. So they really created a mandate saying that counties, you have to do this and this and this. And with that mandate, it's going to mean more people for our area, a larger cost. We end up doing a partnership with Van Buren County. So we'll increase to about 7 defense attorneys for that. We also have to supply a place for them. So I think I did mention to you before that we moved our probation parole from the courthouse to the jail now. So we freed up that whole first wing when you come in to the right-hand side there. Looks like there's a good chance that we'll go in there. But we're right in the middle of that happening. That's really a fairly big deal happening in LA as far as in all the counties. Big adjustment for us and big policy that's associated to it. And just the last thing I just mentioned to you is we did have a facilities planning input session with all the townships, and I'm sure you're concerned about equalization. The House Bill number 6049, the Senate Bill 1025. Matt Wolford, who's our equalization director, he combines his work with Kent County. He tried to answer the questions that townships and cities would have as far as what is going to be expected, what does it look like? And I think the biggest help that we had was many of them were going, we don't see how this is going to work. We don't know how you're going to make a 3 into a 4. There's not enough of them around. And how is the county going to direct this? We don't have any to do something like this. And there was a lot of just good comments for us just to take in and not being that knowledgeable about the topic as far as I know what our equalization director does, but there's probably, I don't know, Aaron, if you know how many there are, but I know there's supervisors that are also assessors. So we have Hopkins, we have Laketown, not Laketown, but they haven't been hired, but a lot of people are represented, just good discussion, and I think you're going to have for us to try to create some political pressure and having something happen that I'm not sure it's going to work out the way it is, the way they're projecting. So I know we have many questions in regards to it. And just lastly, I think as you probably are, we're working on a 2019 budget already as far as to try to prepare for that. And just to have you know, again, we do work on a 5-year operational budget and a 15-year capital budget. And that's how we try to function to try to stay ahead of it. And we're in the midst of doing that amongst the budget issues that all of us have. But it's great seeing all of you. I hope the meeting goes well. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from that row want to speak? Next row? Guess anyone want to speak? Next row?
Hey, Dean. Okay, all right, Dean, you're sick.
Hi, Cindy Osmond, 6064 126 Avenue, Township
Oh,
resident.
the dam?
I saw in your packet tonight you have a resolution to adopt a fee schedule for that's the proper way to do that. The appeal should go directly to the Board of Appeals, and they're under the jurisdiction of the fire board. So I just wondered how that would work. And then I had one comment about something that happened over the weekend. My sister lives in the Newport Street area, and there was short-term rental on that street, and it was seriously overcrowded. And when the residents called the police, or the fire department to report it for investigation, they couldn't go investigate it because they didn't have a request from the zoning administrator to inspect. So those are just some of the unintended consequences of the fire code amendments. Thank you.
Anybody else from the next row? Okay, we'll move on to close public comment at this time and move on to invoices, accounts payable, invoices to be paid. Okay. So he splits that amongst the municipality he serves? Okay.
I would move that we pay the invoices in the amount of $16,779.89.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor state aye by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Let's move on to check register and payroll.
Well, that's just
Nope.
part of your bills for post-audit for your information only, that
Okay.
one. B and C.
What's that?
It's still there, I mean, if you got anything,
Yeah.
you can always take a look and see.
Okay.
About it.
Move on to item 6 then, approval of minutes. Let's take a look in your board pack. We have minutes of the August 1st meeting. Have a motion to
I got a
approve.
couple little small, just kind of grammar ones, if you want to take a peek there. Roy, Chris, whatever. Just the spelling of Van Zoren, PM here, and then a list of just
So
omission.
Brad, you want to make these changes and we can accept them with those changes?
That's all I could find anyway. Just the spelling of Van Zoren, PM was omitted, and then a space on the bottom.
So I would move to accept the minutes with the spelling and formatting changes as made.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those who approve state by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. We have correspondence in item 7. This is from the Allegheny County Road Commission. Basically what they're stating is they're trying to line up their project work on a timeline that works with their cash flow and whatnot. So they're kind of just giving us a heads up that and we already planned quite a bit ahead, so that won't be an issue, but that they'll want us to make sure that we submit our work orders according to a timeline that they're recommending. Anybody have any question, want to add anything else to that? Unfinished business, the interurban board appointment. That term is up for Judith Schneider, who's in the audience, and she's been on the board since 2014 and would like to continue to serve. She's a resident of the township and frequent user of the service, and I would move that we reappoint Judith Schneider for another term on the interurban board of township representative.
I'll support.
Any discussion? Does that take a roll call vote? I don't think it does.
I was just gonna, I actually was going to mention some of the things that the interurban has accomplished during my time on the board, and I don't take credit for them. But I have tried to represent the riders. I'm on the bus all the time, and I often ask people how they feel about the service, the tourists, how long they've waited. I get the bus drivers telling me how they feel about things, and I feel I can represent them as well. During the time I've been on the board, we have expanded Sunday service year-round. We've added the Holland trip monthly. We've added 3 hours, at least as a trial period, on Sunday, so it's open till 7. And, we have really worked to expand the amount of service that we give people without raising the rate. And I like to try and also be a representative for the interurban about how lucky we are to have it. Most people really don't realize what each ride costs and what they're paying. And to, let the bus drivers know. There have been times when I've been on the bus and I've seen the bus driver do a really good job. And because I'm on there, I'll fill this, right? And so I just wanted to let you know that for the last 4 years, I've really been trying to represent the ridership as best as I can.
Well, we're fortunate to have your representation, and I can't think of a better representative to nominate. And the motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Judith.
I appreciate your
That
help.
would be for another 4 minutes.
Thank you, Judith.
New business. So we've been in communication with the county clerk's office regarding the November election, which is upcoming. As I'm sure everybody knows, there's a unique situation with it being a recall election. So basically, since I am not a part of that process of the recall, I will still be on the commission as the supervisor. We have asked, and the county has appointed 2 other people to that commission, and those are former Saugatuck Township trustee Jim Hansen and former Saugatuck Township clerk Jane Wright. So the 3 of us will be the election commission members. Our responsibility will be to appoint those who will serve this office, this hall for the election, review ballots, that type of thing. Those meetings will be noticed. They're public meetings and all are welcome to attend. We'll also go through a testing process of the new equipment. But the whole process is going to be overseen by what's called, and this is by statute, an impartial public officer. And that person has been designated again by the Allegan County Clerk, and is Pat Phoenix, who is from Wyoming, Michigan, and former city clerk for the city of Fenville. So she'll be heavily involved in the process as well as an administrator. So that information is all available, will be available, and there are going to be some procedures for absentee ballots and whatnot. If there's any questions, I'm going to suggest that you contact the county clerk's office, since that's really where it's being driven from. And if you have any questions about the process, that office can answer them. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Okay, let's move on next to the ISC Board of Appeals fee schedule. We had a question about that, and after careful consideration about the ordinance that the township passed, and it is a township ordinance, that covers the Board of Appeals and people who want to go before it, which is, I think, separate from the fire district. I think it's an independent board that each municipality has appointed memberships to, a member to. Those that are initiated in the township, or somebody who wants to appeal a decision in the township, should come to the township office. It should be done through the same process as we do any other type of permitting. And we're different from the 2 cities. They contract out their permitting. We do that all internally. We track it very carefully so that application can be made and tracked with the permit for the parcel. And then a fee can be collected so that if the Board of Appeals, which are an independent board, again, I don't believe that to be, and I don't want it to be part of the fire district. I'd like that to be an independent board. It goes,
Kind of all.
right, exactly. It should be separate from any influence. So then if they have to get legal representation, if they want a legal question answered, whatever fees, whatever costs they may incur, we can reimburse them for the township applicant. So that's the reason for both the application and the fee structure. In our ordinance, we suggest that they be similar for all municipalities, but I don't think we can vote, and we're not going to vote on what the city of Saugatuck or the city of Village Douglas want to establish as their fees, or how they want to run their applications. They run permits differently. But we run them internally, want to track those, and I think it puts us in a position where we got a recent applicant. There was a lot of confusion over our zoning, and we had the fire department trying to interpret our zoning, and it was a mess. We can help that applicant up front get those questions answered. So we have basically established an ordinance, a fee schedule, and it's through board resolution. And attached with that is the Board of Appeals application. Very important for us, the way we do things, to make sure that we get the applicant to sign, that we sign. We track the date because the applicant will have 10 days from the time of issuing, asking for the appeals to be heard. And we try to be proactive here because we think there's going to be an appeal coming up very quickly. As soon as when is it adopted? September 10th is our official ordinance.
Published immediately after,
Yeah.
on that Thursday.
So we think appeals coming quick, and the other, as far as some other things that need to be done for this Board of Appeals are kind of in process. So in addition to that, we've made a suggestion of some bylaws and rules of procedure for them to consider the Board of Appeals, because they'll adopt that. We will not adopt that, but we've gotten our board packet to pass on to them. And in fact, I forwarded that to the chair of the fire board many weeks ago to do just the same for the other municipalities. So basically, that brings us to,
I have one question, Chris. In the suggested operational rules of procedure, item D under 17 does say that fees amount should be uniform among all partners. So we got a little, to me, is a conflict here whether if we're setting a fee schedule, but the rules of procedure that we're suggesting say that it should be uniform among all three.
Maybe suggest to the BOA to take a look at that, that online.
yeah, they could look
That's
at
fine,
that.
but I think that needs to be flagged.
I think it would be beneficial for the fee schedule to be uniform, and in fact, after the other two municipalities, if they concur on a fee schedule different from ours, I think we could change that in the future. But for now, we're going to receive an application very soon, and I think it behooves all of us, including our new Board of Appeals representative, to be in a position where they're ready to go.
Right, and I believe this is just a suggestion on some rules and procedures for.
Yeah, I understand that.
And absent of anything else.
Right.
Now, the chair of the fire district is spending money having their lawyer, the fire board's lawyer, review or come up with some type of procedures. So, but that's up to the Board of Appeals. They'll determine what they want to adopt. But as far as, again, just to summarize, as far as the fee schedule and the application, those are what we're making a decision on today. So do I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Now I'll move that we adopt the resolution to adopt a fire board of appeals fee item and fee item amount of $400 per application for township applicants to the fire board of appeals.
Can I have you add to that motion to also adopt the application template that's in there? It has parcel numbers and things that were absent from the
Oh,
other
okay.
suggested, I think are important.
Yeah, I'll amend that to add the
application form.
It also lists fee amounts and things that I think make it a much stronger legal
The
application than
for appeal form.
the one that was out there, so. Yep,
But if you want to state it all, Brandon, I could put it down on paper. If you wanted to do nice clear motions and stuff, if you want to try to read it back to me, I could sketch it down on paper here. if you want.
I move to adopt the resolution to adopt a Fire Board of Appeals fee item and fee item amount of $400 per application for township applicants to the Fire Board of Appeals as established by Township Ordinance 2018-04, and to incorporate the approved fee item and fee item amount in the Saugatuck Township Consolidated Fee Schedule and include the application for appeal as presented.
I'll second.
motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? With no more discussion, Brad, if you could lead us through a roll call vote?
Rudick, yes. Levinsky?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Rohrig?
Yes.
McElwain?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item C was rules of procedure, which I already covered. It's just suggested. I think our representative has. Eric, you want to add anything on the rules of procedure? You have any comments or?
Not really.
Okay.
I think eventually, and everyone can hear me, I think eventually the Board of Appeals will probably come up with their own application and set the fee schedule as Roy said, but it will be available, it will be uniform. I believe it should be at each municipality. You guys have the application here, city, and even the fire department. You know, we don't want to, pigeonhole someone. If you're appealing in the township, come to the township or you go to the fire department. But eventually it's going to be set, I would think, by the Board of Appeals, because it's going to be its own governing body, correct? Right, Chris? Is that how you see it? I mean, that's how I understand it.
Yeah. That I'm not sure about. I think that's what Jane's looking at, do with the rules of procedure.
I don't think it's not going to be a municipal body.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but
So,
it would probably fall underneath the Saugatuck Township Fire District administrative board, don't you?
that I'm not sure about. I think it's I don't know.
Independent?
I don't know.
It does seem, Eric, that it would be independent.
Yeah,
But for the purposes of the application that we're going to be receiving, very quickly, we need to be, I think,
yeah, we gotta move.
do the first one and learn from there.
Yeah, and adjust as we've always had a Board of Appeals, we've just
Right.
never had anyone appeal.
Right. Well,
That's a true statement.
I appreciate you serving on it, so that's a very important function. River Buff Park Draft Improvement Plans. Is this for the walkway?
Yeah.
I think this is great. So we had some damage to a walk, wasn't damage, it just failed, didn't it, the walkway?
Yeah, the main beam on the, it would be like on the north side cracked in half.
Yeah.
And the pylons are all rotted and broke off.
That's the bridge over.
It's beyond functional use, really. I mean, it's not, it's old anyway to start with. Substandard, the designs, not wide enough. Irregular boards, there's no handrails, it's a mess, but it's old, so instead of trying to replace a wooden structure with a wooden structure, engineer met with Parks Chairman Jim, who can speak a little bit on it too, who's here today. And we did a walkthrough, and you actually get a little bit more out of the park if you're up a little bit more. You come down this hill, kind of a steep grade that they want to eventually fix as well, I think, in the overall scheme of the plan there that's in the plan. But you're going to go, at least with this design, come up on a land bridge and go straight across higher up than the lower bridge. So you can actually get a view of the marsh to your left instead of just, weeds off the highway drain that comes off the highway. So it's a better view of that trail. It's a little bit more in cost, but not much from what I got a verbal from one contractor who took a look at the cost to pull out the old and put in the new. But long term, you don't have to replace this. There's just a culvert, very high density, long lasting plastic culvert. And the land there, that can grow with, grass and things. It just kind of fit the look of the park a little bit better than.
Doesn't this lend itself to ADA compliance?
Yeah, it's
A
going
little
to
bit
be
more.
wider and
Yeah.
just more compliant for the overall view of that park we talked about last year, is to try to connect the front parking area with the best part of the park, and that's the shoreline there. You got a great view of the river marsh up the river that you really don't have to the public. It's a great piece of property, but it's hard to get down over a mile through this trail to the river. A lot of people do, but if you have kids or stroller, if you're in a wheelchair, it's absolutely possible.
Bridge would require replacing the bridge. Tree falling on the culvert or raised, we just have to remove the tree. So it should be more cost effective long range.
No tree or wood or anything, It's just, there's a mound, it's gonna grow in, and that's it. You don't have to replace that 20 years from dry rot or anything.
Also probably looks a lot more natural than a bridge, so.
Yeah, it's gonna look, I think, a little better than what it is now. And it fits the overall plan that they developed last year. Is to eventually do ADA compliant all the way down to the shoreline. Eventually, if they can get grants and donations and things.
So are we asking to improve this amount out of the,
I'd say up to that, and then we can work with Prine and Newhoff to get some bids, some competitive bids, and we'll publish RFP and do a bid process and pick a contractor to work within that scope of work. There's an engineering amount that's estimated there that includes the on-site inspections, DEQ permits. There's a little bit of a wetland, but it's under 1/10 of an acre. But after consulting too with the DEQ, that we said that you definitely would want to do a small project application to the DEQ. So this would come out of Park System Fund. It's the money that the board has set aside to attempt to take a look at our parks that have really not seen capital improvement in some time. And this bridge is, I don't know if it was built, I think, in the 70s. It's due to be either replaced or improved. So for a small project, I think to get going before the end of the fall, it's called for and it's in the long-term plan. So I think they reviewed it too at the Parks Commission, and the consensus is that they're for it, they want to do it. So,
do I have a motion to approve a not to exceed cost for this project?
Is that what the plan is there? Are we approving this already, or is this just a?
I would approve the not to exceed that engineering amount, and then we can facilitate an RFP, a true design for the project. I mean, we have a rough conceptual sketch, but it's an accurate estimate. I think what Dana and Prine and Newhoff think they'll need as far as costs, approvals, and it's going to be a competitive bid to get that job done. And there's going to be some more detailed designs that are going to be involved in the DEQ permit, but for the most part, it's going to be that amount, not to exceed that amount.
Or we can approve the engineering costs at this point so they can get started and finalize it. So do I have a motion to approve the estimated engineering and permit fee?
I would move that we approve the estimated engineering and permit fee up to a maximum of $3,000
Is there a second?
from the Park District Fund.
And that can get us going on an RFP.
I'll
That
support.
will be the true price.
Any additional discussion?
Kristen, did you support?
What's that?
Did you support?
I did not. I just asked for it. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, the next thing we have is the bid tabulation for the Pepperbrook Culvert cul-de-sac reconstruction. This is a project in addition to some repaving we're going to do in that Pepperbrook subdivision. We're also going to widen the cul-de-sac so it's more in line with IFC standards and make access around that, actually both cul-de-sacs more accommodating for that purpose. The bid tabs have come in, the County Road Commission has reviewed them, and they're suggesting that we accept the low bid received by Al's Excavating in the amount of $30,495.
You want to include too, they asked me this before, a contingency amount for delivery and engineering to be added in the motion. Just because that is an included item in the total cost of the project. So that would be the low bid amount plus the contingency costs stated in the letter.
Is that 13%?
Yeah, total. And that's what's anticipated in that last paragraph there.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I move, we approve the cul-de-sac work at Pepperbrook in the amount of $30,000, $495, with the contingency of up to 13%.
That would also include the turnaround too off Culver Street off of Lakeshore. So there's actually 3 cul-de-sacs that are being improved. There's 2 in Pepperbrook and then there's the one off of Lakeshore Drive.
I would second that.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried.
And I was going to do that letter, Chris and the board, just out to all of the residents to just give them all the information that we have to alert them. I talked to Craig Atwood today, and he said that the project, once they get going, it should be about a day to do the resurfacing project of the cul-de-sac. So it's going to be a quick project, is the hope. But I'll be able to put that in a letter to the residents.
Great. Let's move on to item F, Allegan County Aerial Imagery. This is for our GIS system. And
County Censusing and GIS.
we've been doing that every year, right?
Well, there's it's not every year. They've been changing the amounts of the years, but I think they do it every 2 or 3 years. It's just from my memory. Let me pull it up here. The last time we did it. They got a 3-year invoice period. So they do an annual installment for a 3-year period, but you can choose to pay it all in a lump sum, so that then it would last for 3 years. So I'd say, it's easier for budgeting, hold on to your own money as much as you can, just pay the minimum amount each year to the county if you want to go through with this. It's an essential tool for our operations here. Sherry spoke very highly of it the last time it came around, and now the county has a GIS tool online. I think they're finally starting to maximize the use of it. Aerial imagery to a very high degree. It isn't just Google Earth for free. This is a higher degree of clarity that is required through this special project. Now they're applying it in a way I think that a lot more people can use their GIS tool. It's just an all-around good thing. I think the strive towards is your mapping to improve it. It's a good investment for $1,400 a year. It helps a lot of things, a lot of permit functions too, from the aerial imagery and the use for ESA programs and things. It's an essential tool, I think. Update.
Do I have a motion to I'd like to hear a motion to go with 3 equal payments. It makes more sense financially,
At no additional cost.
right? There's no finance fees, so does anyone want me to do it?
I would move that we agree to the 3-year equal payments invoiced in August of 2018, 19, and 2020, each year in the amount of $1,417.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
They'll be sending a similar agreement out to as many partners as they can to get to participate. So hopefully every unit will sign up and we'll have a nice, good dispersion of costs. It truly is an essential tool.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. The Township Attorney. We had found out a couple of weeks ago that our current firm, Dickinson Wright, our representative, our attorney, Nick Curcio, is moving on. He'll be forming his own practice. It's a single person practice himself. He's going to run the whole thing. So I met with Nick and I wanted to find out how he's going to do that. I was encouraged to find out he's going from 14 townships down to 4, which is good. He's a lone wolf. He's given us a very favorable rate, which I'd like to consider for an agreement for legal services to continue on with Nick and his new firm called Nick Curcio Law Firm. But I also had some concerns, so I talked to Dixon's Wright, a couple of the principals, and Ron Bolche, who many of you may know has been a township attorney for many years. I worked with him extensively for 16 years when I was with the township. Back when he was with another firm. He's moved on to Dickinson Wright and is now available to represent us. And he's got more history with the township than any municipal attorney that I know of. There are some areas where Nick is obviously up to speed, but I think both are comparable. Because Nick's rate of $210 was a little bit excessive, and because I felt that we kind of, we got Scott Smith, and then we got Nick, and now we're changing again. I said, what can you do for us? And he lowered his rate to $185, which is nice. So I'm going to suggest that in addition to signing an agreement for legal services for Nick Curcio, we maintain our relationship with Dickinson Wright at the reduced rate, and have that available kind of either in addition to Nick if he gets overloaded, or an area he may not specialize in, they have more people, or if he gets hit by a truck, but as a backup. And have a nice transition here. We may decide to solely go with Nick as he grows. We may want to stay with Dickinson Wright. I think Ron's a fantastic attorney. The one area where I think we conflict is where if we had some kind of issue with Laketown Township, Ron will still be the attorney for Laketown, so he would have to recuse himself during any issues between Laketown and Saugatuck for any reason. So, but he knows that in advance. So that's what I'm suggesting as far as the township attorney, that we continue on with Dickinson Wright with Ron Bolche at his recommended rate, reduced rate, and that we enter into a legal agreement for services with Nick Curcio. Both are amenable, both think it's a good idea, and it kind of gives us a really good best of both worlds here. So I would move that we continue on with Dickinson Wright as a firm, one of the firms to represent us, using Ron Bolche at the new rate of $185, and that we enter into an agreement with Curcio Law Firm PLC, and authorize the clerk and the township supervisor to execute this agreement with Curcio Law. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll support.
Discussion.
Chris, the question I have, I guess I want to be sure, and item 6 I think covers it, but attorney subcontractor special counsel. The parties acknowledge the township may maintain an attorney-client relationship with Dickinson Wright or other law firms for special. So, and I didn't see anything in here as to how this could ever be terminated. I guess that's the other question I have. Maybe it's not needed. I'm not a lawyer, but there's nothing in this, going over it a couple of times, that says if we're not happy or we want to change, how do we cancel it? Anybody have input on that?
It really doesn't,
No.
it doesn't, you know, we don't have to use him. It's really just states, it really, yeah, we just stop using it. It basically just says what he's gonna provide,
No.
what his rates are, and that can change, by the way, within 30 days written notice.
Not for 3 years. I
That's
think.
correct.
For 3 years, it's locked in.
So I don't have any issue with that, because we could just start sending all of our inquiries to Dickinson Wright if there were an issue with it or so on.
We have something from them that says it's 185?
Yeah, we do. We have this email that should be in your packet.
Well, I think Nick is 165.
That's correct.
Right, so if we need someone else besides Nick, then we would pay 185, right?
That's correct. Or whatever another firm might charge
The
us.
3 years is for the rate and lock it.
Right.
Yeah.
But you always retain your right to change private or all legal counsel.
Right.
There's no agreement to say that you have to keep a legal attorney.
Yeah, I think 6 covers that, but this is really just like an engagement letter.
Yeah. And I think what he's stating there is that he knows that we're still going to maintain a relationship with Dickinson Wright or others.
Yeah. But there's no rate
Yeah,
here.
I'm clear on that.
It's for others.
It's clear now in my mind.
Okay. Any other questions? So the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Say no. Motion carried. Let's move on to,
Meeting last week, and we approved a new building, a new storage building for Bud Naughton on his property over there. I guess he sold a big building, and he made, and all this stuff into a little building. So we're making a new building in the same site. That was it, that's all we did.
He's taking the other one down, or the,
I think he sold it.
he sold?
Yeah, he's going to get stuff out of there and put it into a different building.
Okay.
That was it.
road committee?
Okay, there's been a lot of discussion going back even, I think, at least a year and a half with 1 or 2 residents about the intersection at the Dune Schooner Ride, 135th Street, Blue Star, and 65th intersect there, and it's confusing, to say the least. And there have been a number of accidents there. One of the residents took the time to really dig into it to get the accident reports. Seems like we finally have movement on it. The county has agreed to draft, the number I've heard is 3, which sounds good. 3 sketches of what could be done with the intersection to improve things. And one of them would be a roundabout, that the way I feel about it. And I think the county would agree to that also, from what I understand, that take a look at whether you could do one there. And it would just add to the whole, and but the big thing is, if we get the 3 preliminary sketches only, this is not detailed engineering, then we would form I guess you'd call it a steering committee, landowners on that, around that intersection that have potential property issues, and 1 or 2 township residents, and possibly someone from Saugatuck and Douglas even, to give us, to look at it and say, we like this, we don't like that, and what can we do? So we're not going in, jumping in the pool with both feet, but we are getting wet. And the county finally has acknowledged that they'd like to take a look at it as well, which to me was good news, because we just haven't been able to get that traction. So I would think we can go ahead and get those, tell the county, yes, I hope the board would feel the same as I do, that we should go ahead and say yes to the county's offer to get those drawings done. And then put our committee together and have something to talk about rather than an open meeting with no plan.
I also want to keep North Shore, involved in that too, because they got
Oh, absolutely,
Kind of
they're on the
big deal for
corner.
them.
They have the commercial on the corner, doing schooner ride, the gym, commercial, and Dave Eiley is very interested in it as well. So,
yeah, there's the
That's-
subdivision is there too. I know.
and this could become a model for what was brought up earlier today about the old Allegan Road. This could be a model for doing something about that.
Right, isn't it going to Clearbrook as well, the golf course?
Yeah,
That one road, yeah.
that's true. I don't know if we need a motion or resolution or.
At this point, I think it's good that we're giving the public a heads up.
Yeah.
I'd say, let's see, I would start to,
So I'll work with Aaron on it as your one-man road committee.
I don't know if we want to put out a call for volunteers or whatever, but
Not yet, I wouldn't.
yeah, I think we're a little bit ahead.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But it's good to start thinking about it.
If the county will come up with preliminary drawings, like like a culvert idea at the park, something like that, without spending a huge amount of money. And then we got something to talk about to improve. That should be improved, that intersection. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, there's like 5 points there.
Yeah, 6,
Yeah,
I
it's
counted. And you stick your nose out and kind of hope. If you got a passenger, you're lucky because they can look one way and the other way. They come around the curve, etc. It's not good.
Okay, anything else? Next is the committee report, interurban.
Venetian Friday, it was a huge success. Added another dispatcher and a fifth bus. Venetian Saturday was 2,782 passengers, and that was up 136 more than last year. And again, I welcome Judith for another 4 more years.
Next on the agenda is fire board. Eric, you want to report on anything or?
Well, I thought you were gonna talk about are we talking about the spreadsheet, or is that?
Yeah, I think, so we had a special meeting where the spreadsheet that I keep referring to was finally presented, and we're going over that to make sure it's accurate. I think that, my opinion is, I think I'd like to give a more detail, but we're reviewing that as we speak, and you guys have a copy of that. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
No, except that, they actually did go into a lot of depth and spend a lot of time on it. What Chris and I were looking for is like a snapshot of what has happened, and what is the results of the changes made by the township, the bad things. I'm sure there's good things, and so I think Aaron will come back, Aaron Miller from Douglas, is gonna look into some
It's
things.
more detail.
And what Chris and I have been asking for is this to be given to us monthly. Let's not wait 6 months and say, hey, this happened 6 months ago. Because if it's dangerous, we want you guys and who made the changes and Steve to understand what we feel from the fire department is dangerous and what we think should be changed.
Yeah, it was bad news. It took 9 months to get this out, but the
Right.
good news is there's nothing on the surface that I can see that is that,
And it's a work in progress.
Right.
I mean, we got a lot of different minds thinking one way. and
Right.
So it's definitely a work in progress, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And I think what we got is some positive information. It'll be cleaned up and we'll bring it back to you.
Thanks, Eric. Parks Commission?
We spoke about River Block, so we sort of covered that. The other big project we're working on is a 5-year park plan. And we're close to having a draft that, and our plan, like I said before, was we're going to revise the whole thing so the city and Douglas and the school system can plug in their parts. We originally thought we could finish it up this week, but it looks like after talking to Dana, it'll probably be the end of the month. So our goal right now is to have a draft to the two cities and the schools so they can plug in their sections, and for our goal to have it completed by early next year. That's when the 5-year park plan is due for the state. So that's where we are right now.
Thank you.
Questions?
Good work. A one-man wrecking crew.
We go quite that far.
We appreciate all the time you put into it and work.
Dana's got a good,
Without question,
connected with-
we're fortunate to have him.
and Andy's working with the school.
Great. Outstanding. Thanks for being inclusive. Open board report, correct? Lori?
I did have some, we had someone that came in a couple weeks ago and they were just misinformed about the EMR, and I was just curious if you and Aaron could discuss, clear that up again.
Yeah, so we did have an individual come in, was concerned about the AMR situation. We were very proactive on that with Tony Shippa had come, met with us, we got him involved with AMR. After assessing the real data, the information collected, and comparing it to fire department data, it appears that there isn't really a response issue there at all. But we had tasked Tony on kind of monitoring that on an ongoing basis. I don't know that has really gotten any traction, but we asked him and maybe Eric from the fire department and somebody else kind of form an ad hoc committee to look at that on an ongoing basis. But I was comforted to see that some of the data that Tony had was incorrect, and when it's rationalized with the data we got from the fire department, it becomes a lot more accurate, and it looked pretty good.
And his concern was also that there was no AMR coming out of Fenville, and it's like,
It's not true.
It's not true, and I don't know where he's getting this misinformation from, so.
For the most serious types of calls, they will come from the closest point, and if they're in Fenville, they'll be coming from there.
And Chris, just for everyone's information, their response times are public. Now keep in mind, just like the fire department, it's not when you call 911, the clock doesn't start. It's when 911 dispatches them, and there can be some significant, not to throw anyone under the bus, the 911 system, but there can be some significant delays. So people think that, how long is it taking to get here?
Right.
But they only can go as fast as what they were told and when they were dispatched. So there's a little bit of misconception.
Right.
And even being on the fire department, I didn't realize that until a few years ago when we had an incident at a football game, a serious accident. It seemed like it took forever. And we dug into it. And they were here like 10 minutes after the 911 call came in, and the 911 call said it was a 3 instead of a 1.
Yeah, the ones that they...
So they didn't turn on the lights and
Right.
fly down. They just rode the normal. So there's a lot of misconceptions
There
that
is.
need to be cleaned up.
I just want to thank you, Laurie, for bringing that up, because I don't recall who else was at the meeting with Tony Shipper, but as I recall it, he walked out of that meeting very satisfied with AMR manager here, that he had some misconceptions, like Fenville being closed, and that was made very clear. So, and
Right, I mean, I
just
live on the south side, so I'm a concerned citizen, but so yeah,
I compliment Tony Shipper for getting into it and bringing it up as an issue, and it was covered.
Doug?
I have nothing, thank you.
I'll just cover this rental situation with the overcrowding, because I saw Steve's response to that situation. Just to be clear, what happens here, the zoning administrator issues a permit for rental. At that point, it's passed on to the fire department for inspection. That's where it stops with the zoning administrator. As far as the fire department being called out because of overcrowding, that's odd. I'm not sure why that would have happened, but I know Steve has been on that overcrowding situation. It's the second warning. The next one will result in some additional action because they are in violation of their permit.
I believe
so-
they lose their permit, as
Yeah.
I recall, when we were involved in writing
Yeah.
that.
So as far as, that situation, that's the status of that's the same one that was being referred to, that's what I know about.
Yeah, I thought it
As
was
far-
to call the police first, so I don't know how the fire department.
Yeah, I don't either.
Dispatched.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the right,
And their other neighbor over in that
Barb.
area, Barb knows,
Yeah.
she's been in a lot of contact with the police about that house too.
so now I know that Steve is getting tougher on that, and that there'll be some action taken if,
Yeah, it states very clearly in that ordinance
Yeah.
that he should be contacted immediately. Our zoning administrator, if it's a weekend, yes, you can't get a hold of him until Monday, but then he can immediately get a
Right.
hold of whose name's on that rental permit, so.
likewise, he does not schedule any fire department inspections. It's not his role, that's done by the fire department alone. With respect to rentals. That's all I have.
I have nothing. You covered it. Rental thing.
We'll move on to public comments. Anybody with public comment? You have to turn it on. See it?
It's a test, Bill, it's to see if,
Figure it out.
see if you're qualified.
Security Director and Laketown Township resident, and I just want to thank the road committee for their work for both of the intersections. I know Old Allegan Road, for our drivers to be able to navigate that, to get across, will be wonderful to have something that maybe can help speed that up. The other thing on the roads that I'm wondering about, if there's any, or how would we go about starting some kind of campaign to let people know that passing on the right is illegal?
Like on the shoulder.
Especially in
It is,
Douglas.
and especially, I know.
There is a right lane.
And people, yeah, I don't think people realize that going over a white line is illegal and it caused a death. And so it's something, that's important to find if there's education materials out there, or if MDOT can put it up on their beautiful billboards that we have now, that with the electronic letters, any of that. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Anybody else have any?
I'll be official here. Eric Beckman, 6467 Cliff Drive. It's just an observation, but when I came to vote in August, I think it was August 7, right, Brad? The gentleman outside talking about having his name filled in as a write-in candidate. I believe that's illegal. I don't know the law, but I didn't think we could campaign anywhere near the entrance, and I don't think it was a big deal.
Where was this at?
Right outside.
The guy with the sign?
He wasn't signing, he was just telling people as they walked in.
Be a write-in for what?
I can hear about it.
I didn't listen to him, sorry, but
No.
I heard him talking about it, and I know we have an election in November, and I hear we have outside people. I mean, I know you guys are running, I know we got a lot of other people here that are running. And number one, I think it's unethical to try to get someone to vote for you as you're walking in, but I also think it's illegal.
It
So,
is.
just an observation that happened, just thought it would, you guys need to
I'm
know.
not sure if we got that guy and talked to him or not, so. We
Yeah, you have to be 100 feet
strike
away.
off the area, we told one person they had to be 100 feet away, so.
Well, I'll take that to the election commission, and that'll be a point of order to be discussed, and make sure that the workers at the poll booth are educated to that situation and what they should do.
And they all are, so,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people, they might just hide over there or something and just try to get away with it.
Yeah. I know there was a guy standing with a sign, I know you're not supposed to do that. You can't paint signs.
You should have grown up in Chicago.
Any other comments from the audience? There being none, meeting stands adjourned. Thank you for coming.